It's been over 500 years since the human race almost went extinct at the hands of the fearsome and mysterious creatures called beasts. The surviving races now make their homes, towns, and cities up on floating islands in the sky, to keep out of reach of all but the most mobile of beasts. Only a group of young girls from the leprechaun race can wield the ancient dog weapons needed to fend off invasions from those dangerous creatures into these people's unstable and fleeting lives, where a simple call to certain death could come at any moment. Enters an unlikely character who is our main protagonist of this story, called William Cannon, a mysterious man who lost everything in his final battle over 500 years ago and had awakened from a long icy slumber, unable to fight any longer. William becomes the father those kids never had, caring for and nurturing them even as he struggles to come to terms with his new life, in which she feels the pain of helplessly waiting for his loved ones to return home from the battle that his daughter once felt for him so long ago. Together, William and the leprechauns gradually come to understand what family means and what is truly worth protecting in their lives. In the flash forward, a young red-haired girl called Kathleen describes her love for a man before jumping off an airship to her death. In the present day, within a town inhabited by beasts, men carefully now with blue hair runs through a marketplace chasing after a cat that has stolen her pendant. She slips off a bridge, but it's condensate by a man who also Rico wear her pendant to avoid hostility from the basement. Capelli spends the day with William before being escorted away by mysterious guards led by a lizard man. Later will mentor to a pub where he's given military work to be the caretaker of an armory on a floating island, which he reluctantly accepts. Arriving late at night, William is confused to find that the island, rather than holding weapons, is instead the home to several young girls, including Capelli, who is noticeably older than most of them, and he's made as a troll acquaintance of his called in Glasgow. Will miss little experience with kids, so he decides to stay on the job despite previous hires having quit after just one day. Just as he is getting ready for bed, Cavalli reveals that the reason the armory doesn't hold weapons is because the girls are the weapons. We then discover in a flashback 526 years earlier, a teenage Willem is tended to by a young girl who refers to him as her father. Just before a grand battle, it is then revealed that will never return home, and within a year humanity became extinct. Will introduce himself to all the girls, but they cower from him due to never having spent time around men. He eventually befriends two of the ones cut all these age called India, and never manages to win the rest over by cooking for them. If you tease Capelli for having feelings for Will while watching the girls play dodgeball, one falls off a small cliff and badly injured her head, only for everyone but willing to acting differently unnerved. Will has a reluctant Nick Laffer telling who the girls actually are. 5 centuries earlier, humanity created 17 beasts that proceeded to exterminate humanity, leading their fantastical descendants to become the dominant species. The Glass explains that the girls are leprechauns who have replicated human behavior, and those are the only creatures who are able to wield dub weapons, the only weapons able to kill the 17 beasts. However, their bodies are subsequently built to be expendable, and thus they have no fear of death. At the end, Cat Police soon only for several days to fight one of the beast, but returned safely, picking them up, encountering the lizard man again. William tells it that he intends to stay with the girls because they remind him of someone he knew in a similar situation. While tending to carefully, she warns Will not in 5 days' time the beasts intend to launch a giant ball of energy which can only be destroyed by a suicidal charge from the girls, with her being the one to do so this time. As a final request, she has him kiss her good night. Cavalli goes back to sleep as William remembers that someone, a red-haired girl named Lilia Willimon Ephron, pull an all-nighter in archives looking for a way for carefully to avoid death. Upon discovering them in the morning, Capelli rebukes them for trying to alter her fate. So William takes Kath Ali outside for a sparring tool, with both wielding dug weapons. Willing handily defeats Cal Poly, explaining that the leprechauns' unrefined fighting technique and their lack of knowledge it's about the dog weapons is what prevents them from greater success. This angers Capelli, as it would mean their sacrifices were for not only F or William to suddenly collapse from internal bleeding. The Black manages to stabilize him. Later at night, she explains to the girls that she found Willem's petrified state frozen in ice years earlier and managed to fight and cure him with Willem using a universal translator. They were able to discover that William is the world's last human, now known as a met with some ridicule by all other hypersentient species. Despite this, all the girls react to him with curiosity except Capelli, who in her distress flies away and meets with the lizard man, revealed to be named Lines. Can he assures her that William is simply trying to push against her nature but advises her to act as she desires. Catholic returns to the island where she discovers Willem performing maintenance on her sword, and he explains that dug weapons are made from people's wishes. She decides to accept Liam's offer of properly teaching her at her request. She also asks for Willing to make her butter cake should she return safely, unaware that William had been promised to have the exact same thing by the girl who saw him off before he left to fight the beasts. Kapali, if via NF and then leave to go fight the beasts. Over 2 weeks after Catholic's group left, Willing continues to watch over the girls but begins experiencing nightmares that the trio have all died on their mission. Eventually one of the girls, called T, it has a special dream of her talking to someone unfamiliar. This dream, called the Harbinger dream, requires a checkup immediately afterwards. To do this, Willem on ticket travel to Corning to Luzon Island, where human-like creatures and beasts men live in harmony, for Tia to get checked at A.H. hospital, as the island was the filming location for several romance films of which T, it is a fan. Will amend her go on a minor sightseeing tour various film locales. After concluding there toward a famous statue of the city's founder, they witness beastmen attacking the shop of another baseman for an unknown reason. However, Willing covertly intervenes, allowing the former to be arrested. Welteek gets her checkup. William talks to the head doctor, who tells him that the Harbinger dream is said to be an indicator that a leprechaun has reached the age of maturity and can fight in combat. Like other girls, must receive the checkup to determine how to best prepare their body accordingly. Wilma's privately distraught at it being sent into battle at such a young age. Later, while spending the night in a military compound, Willem wakes up early and goes for a walk. He runs into a dog beast woman who reveals she is concealing a weapon and requests will deliver a message to Limeskin. Before you can confirm, they receive word from other officers that the battle has failed. Willing collapses in despair, only for Limeskin and all 3 girls to walk into the compound. CTLY fine. Overwhelmed, Willem uses magic to run to carefully and hug her, much to everyone's surprise, only for her to slap him in return. 18 hours earlier, Catholic, if he up and different fight against the beast, but when it takes on a new form, Limes can order a strategic retreat, forcing the land in question to be abandoned. Cavalli attempts to disobey this and keep fighting, but she suddenly experiences a vision of a young girl speaking cryptic, haunting words that briefly turns her eyes red in the present. While the update will among the events carefully blames herself for not going through with the suicidal attack, but never and consoles her. They are interrupted by the dog beast woman Willem encountered, revealed to be Limeskin's friend's daughter Fyra. She gives Limeskin evidence of death threats against her father, Cornan de Luz Mayor, due to his support of racial integration by a group of supremacists known as the Annihilation Knights. She asks for military support of an upcoming rally, but everyone in the room, though sympathetic, declines due to military policy forbidding them from interfering in local affairs, and also to avoid escalating the conflict. Despite their rejection, Fire is still the company's Wilman the leprechauns as T. Hey, retrieved. He then proceeds to treat them to lunch and take them on the sightseeing tour Willem earlier promised. Yet during the tour, Catholic continues to have the visions she experienced during the battle, but decides not to tell the rest. Later, will notice is the Annihilation Knights following them with the intent of kidnapping Fyra. He and the girls wore them into an alley where he proceeds to handily defeat them by using magic to legally flip coins at him, then has them arrested. Though grateful for defeating them, Faye Eric chastises him for using her as bait, then departs. As evening approaches, Apelli pulls Willing to the side and makes him admit that he wanted to fight out of a neat suicidal desire. Will and then further admits that the longing for death, with the absence of the people he left behind, he has found a potential new family in the girls, explaining his earlier reaction. And Hug, hearing this, carefully realizes she's in love with him. Just as they're about to leave, William is approached by an officer who tells him that someone would like to meet with him. Recognizing that name, will incense the girls home without joining them. Catholic and the other fairies return to the warehouse, while William went to meet his old friend, the Great Sage, someone who fought alongside him in his old life, and he's still alive for centuries by a self-inflicted curse. The two of them reminisce about the past. Song is happy to see Willem and tells him a plan to retake the surface from the 17 beasts. William's ability to repair the duck weapons is key to selling strategy, but he refuses to help with the plan that would send more fairies into battle. Back at the warehouse, Cavalli suffers a mental breakdown from using her powers too much. All lying unconscious in her bed, she has a vision that could be the first step in a tragic series of events. To ferry soldiers not often Rantok are on a mission to escort a group of salvagers to the surface. There they met one of William's friends, called Creek, pondering about the beasts are related to their own reasons for being. Rantok begins questioning them to Creek. William was summoned to the military base on Island 49 regarding the situation with the salvagers on the surface. Much to William's displeasure, he was ordered to send one ferry soldier from the warehouse to the surface couple. He wasn't sure if she can keep her individuality if you came to her and revealed that Catholic wasn't the only one that had problems with memories from her previous life. If you begin telling a story about a certain girl whose individuality was eroded by her past life, memory will met with rental can often and immediately provided maintenance for the poison in their body. Even so, Rantok still cannot trust the sole survivor of the Inuit who was wiped out by the 17 beasts, still being a bit awkward due to the proposal from the previous day. Willem on totally met up with Greg to check up on the ruins of Willem's birthplace, Gomig City. All of a sudden a huge earthquake happened in a swarm of timer appeared. Different rental and not fought back against the swarm of timer, but their overwhelming numbers gradually pushed the ferries into a cor. No, Willem enters the fray and fought the timer with his wounded body. In her last moment, Kathleen asked one last request to Elk, which was for Elk to return to her body since Elk took her out so she could keep what remains of herself. At first Elk says no, however, with the mention of the promise you made to Willem on Elk during their childhood, she gets convinced. This leads to carefully saving Rend and Willem as they plummet to the ground, and her killing all the beasts which would threaten their lives. However, in the process she opens the ferry gate and wipes out everything, which resulted in carefully and Rent being dead and William being the only survivor. And this brings. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed and turn on the notification so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.